best leaders don't panic under pressure. They master. Hey, welcome to Wow Words of Wisdom. This is the podcast where we talk about all things mindset, all things confidence, and taking action, even when it feels scary. I'm Sharon McCaffrey, and if there's one thing I know for sure, it's this. Your mindset shapes everything. The way you think, the way you show up, the way you go after what you really want, and it all starts in your head. So if you've ever felt stuck, doubted yourself, or wondered if you're really capable of more, you're in the right place. Each week, let's break through those mental blocks, shift your perspective, and start making things happen. So today, guys, I want to talk about pressure and why it's a privilege. And I used to see pressure as like this heavy, it was like a suffocating weight on my shoulders. It felt like the world was expecting, far too much from me. And I was one wrong move away from actually crumbling under it. And I'd tell myself, like, why me? Why is everything so damn hard? But now I see that pressure as a sign that I'm actually in the right place. It means I'm playing a bigger game. It means that I'm stepping into something more. And I remember as a teenager, I was doing my cert back in the day, and I was like feeling under all this pressure for exams and worried about it and all of that. And I remember my grandmother saying to me at the time, she says, Sharon, stop worrying about things because worrying doesn't actually change the outcome. And something changed within me that time. I remember thinking, there's no point in looking at all this pressure as a bad thing. I need to step into it. I want you to think about this, like nobody feels pressure sitting on the sidelines. So you don't feel pressure when you're coasting, when you're settling, when you're playing small. Pressure only actually finds you when you put yourself in the arena. And some of you've probably heard the famous Billie Jean King quote, pressure is a privilege. It only comes to those who earn it. And that actually is really, really true. And you've also probably all heard the famous saying being bantered around, diamonds are made under pressure. But like, if you think about it, pressure doesn't just create diamonds, it actually exposes who can handle the heat. So what I'm going to cover in this episode is why pressure is actually proof that you're growing, how the world's top performers don't just survive under pressure, how they actually thrive, and how to shift your mindset so pressure becomes fuel instead of actual fear. So first thing is understanding the truth about pressure, why it's a gift. So I want you to think of pressure like it's like lifting weights. So just imagine yourself for a second walking into a gym and you go in and you grab the lightest set of dumbbells and you just curl them over and over. You're lifting for sure, okay? But are you actually growing? Is there anything really happening? No, because growth only actually happens under resistance. You only get stronger by pushing through the discomfort. You only get stronger by adding more weight and staying in the game, even when your muscles are actually screaming. And that's part of the reason why people hire personal trainers and stuff, because they know that they're actually going to push them more. So pressure works the same way. No resistance, then there's no strength, and no pressure, there's no progress. So pressure is actually proof that you're in the arena. That people who avoid pressure, they stay comfortable, they stay safe. You've often heard me talk about like staying within your comfort zone is where your dreams die. They stay on the sidelines watching. But if you're feeling pressure, it's because you're in the game. The best athletes feel pressure in championship matches. Like I recently ran a meeting in the office on like, are you in the arena or like, are you sitting in the sidelines? And, we can all be envious of all these sports players and the amount of money that they make and the success that they have, but they're in the arena. And then the people in the sidelines are the ones shouting and giving out. So if you want to be that big earner, if you want to be successful, you need to put yourself in the arena. Putting yourself in the arena means feeling some pressure. CEOs making £1 million decisions feel pressure every single day. Entrepreneurs taking risks, stepping into new levels, feel pressure constantly. The difference between them and everyone else is that they don't run from it. They use it. So if you find yourself, I don't know, that you're sitting maybe at your desk, you're drowning in work, you're feeling that you're barely keeping up, you're second guessing your decisions, you're wondering if you're good enough, what if instead you started seeing the pressure not as a problem, but that you actually saw it as a privilege? So, question, how do high achievers handle pressure? You know, if you look at like Serena Williams, do you think when she walks onto centre court at Wimbledon, do you think she's relaxed? Do you think she's sipping tea? Do you think she's thinking about what she's going to have for dinner? No. She obviously feels the pressure because it means that the match matters. Like Michael Jordan, like, you know, the greatest basketball player of all times, like, you know, he once said, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over again, and that is why I succeed. Do you think Michael Jordan felt pressure taking those game winning shots? Of course, but he still took them because avoiding the pressure isn't how you win, it's leaning into it. This is my first podcast that I'm doing on YouTube because lots of people have asked me to do that. And I feel massive pressure today recording this like live and people watching me. But in my head, I'm going, I need to embrace this pressure so that I can grow, and I'm leaning into it rather than avoiding it. Could have avoided it, absolutely. And I have been avoiding it for a while, but I understood that I needed to embrace that pressure at some point in time. You know, like Oprah felt pressure every time she had to prove she belonged in a male dominated industry. Do you think Jeff Bezos felt pressure when Amazon was on the verge of collapse? Of course. Any CEO, any entrepreneur, any game changer you admire, they all felt pressure at some point in time. And what I want you to understand is that, like, if you're feeling pressure, whether it's in work, in your business, or in life, it's because you're stepping into something bigger. The question is, are you going to let it break you, or are you going to let it build you? And, you know, there is a science behind pressure and how it shapes us. And you want to look like at pressure like a fire. You know, fire can do two things. It can burn you, or it can forge you into something stronger. So the science is pressure isn't the problem. It's your mindset towards it that's the problem. When you shift your perspective from this is overwhelming to this is an opportunity, everything changes. So reframe the pressure narrative. Instead of saying, I can't handle this, say, this is stretching me. This means I'm growing. I'm stepping into something greater. So let me give you some practical steps to help you to handle pressure like a pro. So the first one is breathe. Breathe and reframe the narrative. And I do a lot of what I call box breathing. And box breathing is like where you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, and hold for 4. And if you do that for 2 minutes, it's going to calm your whole like nervous system down. So that's the first thing. Breathe, reframe the narrative. So instead of saying, I have to do this, say, I get to do this. I've been rereading the book The Secret recently, and it's talking about gratitude. And it was saying about, like, you know, from the minute that you get up in the morning, you should start reminding yourself of what you're grateful for. So I went to the gym this morning at 5:30 and it was really, really cold. And I just reminded myself on my way to the gym when I was feeling a little bit sorry for myself. I said, I actually get to do this. There are people out there that are in wheelchairs or, and, you know, maybe are not in a situation, maybe they're sick, you know, they can't go to a gym, they can't walk on a treadmill. And so I just reframed it in my head and I ended up feeling good about going to the gym and opposed to feeling that it was something that I had to do. So instead of saying I have to do this, say I get to do this. So if you've got, like, let's say a big work presentation to do and you're dreading it, and think to yourself, I get to do this. That means that people trust you to lead. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been asked to do it. Number 2 then is use the pressure anchor technique. So think back to a time when you handled pressure and you came out stronger. Your past wins are actually proof that you can handle this too. And you've survived 100% of those. The third one is adopt the Navy SEAL mindset, which is calm is contagious. The best leaders don't panic under pressure. They master their response. So think of pilots in turbulence. They don't freak out. They just adjust, they recalibrate, and they go again. Number 4 is surround yourself with people who thrive under pressure. The people you hang around with shape how you handle pressure. And I've ran a TED talk on this, that you are the average of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. If your circle complains about pressure, you will too. If they embrace it, so will you. And number 5 is then remember, pressure brings out your potential. The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. What if the very thing you're resisting is actually your greatest opportunity? And understand it's at the far side of that your growth comes. So a few final words and a little call to action. I want to ask you, what's the one area of your life where you feel pressure? And instead of running from it, what have you leaned into it? And I would love if you could DM me your biggest pressure moment and how you've turned it into a win. It's great, seeing on the podcast and on the Instagram, people messaging me from things that I've recommended them to read or do. And I just love hearing the feedback. So please, 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 DM me. I don't mind if it's on the podcast or if it's on the Instagram or wherever you listen to me. One area of your life where you're really, really feeling the pressure and leaning into it, and let me know how that goes. Just remember, pressure is a privilege. It's a sign you're playing in the bigger game. Embrace it, own it, and let it elevate you. Nobody wants to sit on the sidelines. There's nothing happening on the sideline. Again, I want to thank you guys for listening to me. Please, hit the follow button. If you can share this with some friends, I would really, really appreciate this. And I hope you enjoy the episode. And that's my words of wisdom for today's episode of Wow. I hope this gives you something to think about, because remember, your mindset shapes your reality. The way you choose to think today will impact what you create tomorrow. If you love this episode, let me know. Share it, tag me, or send me a message. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Catch you next time.